The Celebrity Solstice was once the flagship for Celebrity Cruises, their new generation of ships with a bunch of new innovations and cruise ship firsts. But it's been almost 15 years since the introduction of the Solstice. Today, I'm boarding her for a short repositioning cruise up the Pacific Northwest to find out if the ship still holds up after so many years, if this really is a premium cruise experience, and if Celebrity as a brand lives up to the hype. I've wanted to try the Celebrity brand for a number of years now. The company was formed as an offshoot of the historic Chandris line, a company I've talked about a few times on the main channel. Celebrity Cruise Line was meant to rival other premium cruise lines and is still guided by that philosophy today. The company was later sold to the Royal Caribbean Group in 1997, and since, the brand has been building custom ships for their fleet. Now, I have mixed feelings on Royal Caribbean. I know that's sacrilege to say amongst cruise fans, but I recently sailed on Freedom of the Seas for a short 3-night cruise for a wedding party with my friends, and I'll be honest, I didn't really enjoy it that much. It was so chaotic that I didn't even bother filming a video. Regardless, the Celebrity brand is positioned as a more premium experience, much more in line with Disney Cruise Line, which I'm obviously a big fan of. It's also a product that I've never tried before, and I've been endlessly curious after trying other premium brands like Virgin. So I found a pretty good deal on the Celebrity Solstice, which was doing a repositioning voyage. Our trip would take us from the port of Los Angeles up the Pacific coast to Astoria, Oregon, then through the Salish Sea, crossing into Canada to dock in Victoria, British Columbia, and then ending in Vancouver. The ship prior to this was doing weekly Mexican Riviera cruises, and this was a short 4-day, one-way trip up the Pacific Northwest, positioning the ship for weekly Alaskan voyages. The Celebrity Solstice itself was the first ship in this new class and was put into service in 2008, becoming the new flagship for the Celebrity fleet. She was followed by another 4 nearly identical sister ships, the Equinox, Eclipse, Silhouette, and the Reflection, which capped off the class and set sail in 2012. So at this point, the Solstice is nearly 15 years old and saw her last renovation in select areas in 2016. Notably absent from them are the cabins. Welcome to 2008. Welcome to our standard balcony cabin. Originally, we picked a guaranteed stateroom, which was placed on deck 6, right across from the lifeboats. The way the Solstice class was designed was that the superstructure of the vessel jets in twice along the length of the ship. That means there are some cabins, particularly on deck 6, that are slightly more obstructed with an intimate view of those orange life-saving boats. So upon boarding, we snagged a last-minute upgrade to deck 8. The result is this cabin, which is definitely looking a bit tired. Now, most of this cabin was functional, with plenty of storage, lots of floor space, and a decently sized mini fridge. Though the fridge is involuntarily stocked with tiny bottles of Tito's. The bed was somewhat comfortable with linen that also felt very nice. The bathroom was also decently sized with a good amount of storage. Again, it's not the prettiest and it feels more like an outdated Marriott hotel, but it's functional and for the price point, it's just passable. Though I will note the nondescript soap products they use is weirdly bad. It doesn't lather very well and it makes your skin feel dry afterwards. And the downsides continue elsewhere too. Since the ship is from 2008, the decor really reminds you of it, as does the technology, or lack thereof, as there are no plugs at the bedside tables. In fact, there are only 2 North American plugs in the whole cabin, which is very annoying. Now, the rest of the cabin was clean and felt relatively put together after all of these years, though I did find some quirks here and there, like a Macy's hanger for some reason in the closet. The cleanliness, however, does not extend to the balcony, as the deck, railings, and even the chairs all felt pretty dirty and in rough shape. But again, for this specific voyage, I really can't complain too much for the price. But any other cruise lasting 7+ days and costing much more than what we paid, I'm not sure if it's worth it. But of course, you can scale up or down depending on your budget. The Solstice, like all of Celebrity's ships, offer a wide variety of cabin types from inside, ocean view, balcony, and suites. They call their more premium rooms Concierge, Aqua Class, and the Retreat. But this particular ship doesn't offer anything that extravagant for the upgraded price, so I would just save your money and stick to a cheaper balcony room. The cabins, particularly on the corners on where the superstructure curves in, are perfect for a better overall view. But honestly, I would have just gotten an ocean view room instead of our balcony. The weather didn't really allow us to use our balcony all that often, and even when it was nice outside, it was so dirty that I'd rather just chill up on deck somewhere. Plus, an ocean view room is cheaper for pretty much exactly the same layout and size. Food was something Celebrity is known to do pretty well, and for the most part, they lived up to the hype. The Ocean View Cafe, the ship's casual buffet, had a wide variety of options and a daily international theme. The hours of operation extended throughout the entire day and well into the evening, and I found a lot of options that I really enjoyed, especially the Indian food. The majority of the choices I tried were pretty great, aside from the dessert options. The cakes in particular ranged from flavorless to spongy and pretty awful. Solstice also has a few formal options, including a main dining room which is complimentary each night, as well as a few specialty restaurants. We tried a specialty dining experience called Le Petit Chef, which was retrofitted in a former Asian restaurant on board. It's an experience very popular in Europe and first came to sea on their Edge-class ships. It was so popular that they brought it to the Solstice, and I could see why. Projectors mounted in the ceiling create a sort of show onto your dining table, introducing each course of the meal to you. It's lined up exactly to your plate, so there's a lot of visual jokes and gags that are made with this setting. It's a really cool show, both from a storytelling and technological standpoint, and I thought it was worth the $100 it cost for the evening, especially since the food was also very good. While we didn't try the other specialty restaurants, I have heard the food is also exceptional. But with that being said, I don't even really see a need to try them out, since the main dining room food is honestly pretty competitive in quality. Everything from the bread service, the appetizers, the main courses were fantastic. Now honestly, I'm not a fan of the one main dining room concept. It feels a bit outdated and not my thing. Celebrity's Edge-class ships have done away with this concept, and while the main dining room is a relic of the past for the industry, our experience here was pleasant and the food came out extremely fast. However, that might have been a byproduct on the fact that the ship was only at half capacity. So really, everything on board was pretty solid. The only food that I thought completely missed the mark, other than the casual desserts, was the grill on deck 14. The burger there was pretty bad. The bars, on the other hand, were great. Solstice has a number of them to choose from your generic lounges around the lobby to some more interesting venues, like the Martini Bar with a chilled countertop to keep your drinks cool. There's also a wine bar with a long list of wines from around the world to choose from, although none from Niagara. Café El Vicio offers coffees and teas throughout the day, with a selection of bland pastries to snack on, as well as a gelato bar at an extra cost. But the best venue on board is the Sky Lounge, the ship's observation lounge all the way up on deck 14. I loved this space, with its massive floor-to-ceiling windows that looked forward over the ship's bow and provided 180-degree views of the scenery. It paid off, too, since our voyage was sailing along the beautiful landscapes of the Pacific Northwest. So it was especially incredible watching the ship sail into port along the coast of Oregon. Even at sea, it was cool watching the ship crest over the swells and see the whole superstructure of the vessel move. That's the kind of stuff that makes me so happy to be on the ocean. It's why I love being on ships. It allows me to be on the ocean and observe the beautiful sea life and magnificent coastlines. So yeah, I was a fan. But it's not just the Sky Lounge. There's actually a lot to love about the design of the ship. Celebrity hired Martin Francis, a well-known super yacht designer, to come up with the design for the Solstice. I think he did a pretty good job. The ship is definitely a bit blocky in some areas, but not to where it looks overly white refrigerator on the ocean. I think the ship does look pretty sleek and rather premium. That extends to the interiors as well, with a lobby that is adorned with warm tones and white curtains. Yeah, it looks a little dated, and the center chandelier piece is weirdly small, but the entire ship does have a warm and comfortable feeling to it. Even in the elevator lobbies for the guest cabins, there's some really tasteful art that creates a weirdly cozy area. All of this aft connects to a central atrium that spans the entire height of the ship, and has glass elevators and open-air balconies that give the ship a real dynamic sense of verticality. Along the way are a cozy games room, a library, and an internet lounge. The centerpiece for this atrium is a beautiful 3-story live tree. I love this. It makes the atrium feel fresh and alive and give the space an aura of sophistication. Yeah, it may feel like a 2005 mall concourse, but that's a net positive for me. Of course I'm gonna love that. The sense of dynamic architecture is evident elsewhere too, with a 2-story opening in what they call the entertainment court, surrounded by underutilized lounges and horrific artwork. There's also an extensive shopping area with an open-air concourse spanning 2 decks. Its only truly weird space is Team Earth. It occupies nearly 2 decks along the atrium, and its purpose, I guess, is to educate people on environmental stuff through the instrument of a very 2008 touchscreen UI. This is obviously very underutilized, and on other ships, this space has been turned into a lounge with lots of seating. I expect this space will see a similar upgrade in the future. But let's take a trip to the top decks, and we'll first visit the spa. Or maybe we won't. If you've ever been on a mainstream cruise ship before, you'll probably know that the spas are some of the most borderline hostile and predatory aspects of the experience. They're always trying to sell you things, present ridiculous seminars, and market the vision of a more aesthetically beautiful body in a sort of toxic way. Honestly, I think this whole sub-industry is really gross, and you might not know this, but most major cruise lines have their spas run by one company. It's why many of them feel the same, and their business practices carry on throughout all of them. I didn't even film the spa here, since every time I came within 10 feet of the entrance, I'd be surrounded by spa employees trying to sell me cellulite removal therapy or something. Okay, it wasn't that bad, but we were brought on this deeply rehearsed tour through the many treatments and services they offer. It felt like the most uncomfortable, intended to be comfortable place on the ship. I just really hate these business practices, and these predatory spas need to stop marketing to older people on how to make their natural bodies look cosmetically better for the low cost of like $300. So that's why I don't have footage of the spa here. Honestly, it wasn't all that great looking. Anyways, up on deck, things get a lot more pleasant. Solstice has 2 outdoor pools and 4 outdoor hot tubs. Those are surrounded by a lot of deck chair seating, as well as these cozy padded loungers in these shaded tarp structures. You'll also find a reasonably sized basketball court, kids club, and a well-appointed sun deck up here. When you move aft, you'll discover a gimmick of the Celebrity Solstice. This was, and I guess still is, the world's first and only lawn at sea. It's all real grass, and it is pretty cool to lay out here while you're at sea. A very neat juxtaposition. Here you'll also find the ship's outdoor screen, made up of like 20 pixels, as well as a bar, sometimes playing live music, cabanas that you can rent out, and a hot glass studio where you can create your own glass thing. Yeah, it's pretty strange. All of these are pretty good amenities, but my favorite is the solarium. It's an indoor pool which is always kept at the perfect temperature. This came in handy on our sea day with 45 knot winds and frigid temperatures. The comfortable seating in here is accompanied by a nice cafe that just makes it a pleasant place to relax. There's also 2 hot tubs bordering the space, and the central pool in the middle felt like it was 98 degrees. During the heavy swells outside, it also became the most entertaining wave pool imaginable. Overall, I really loved all of these public spaces on board, despite some of them showing their age. But the set activities performed in them were a different story. Now look, there's no doubt that Celebrity is known for attracting an older clientele, and this voyage was no different. It's why there's still an internet cafe, which is actually called the iLounge. It's a certified Apple retailer at sea, though it is a bit puzzling to me on who would buy this old generation Apple TV remote on their cruise. Unsurprisingly then, the majority of the activities were designed for a more mature audience. There is a crappy kids facility and some events throughout the day that are programmed for younger and more diverse people, like an LGBTQ+ meet and greet, but that felt more like a corporate mandated necessity rather than a genuine attempt for inclusivity like on Virgin. But some activities were just puzzling to me altogether. I'm not kidding with this. They were listing playing with an Xbox Kinect as an activity. Would you believe nobody showed up for this? Like, what? This isn't 2011 Celebrity, come on. The majority of the other events ranged from live music and trivia, though some were fun and different. However, when the events aren't happening in the public spaces, you are cursed to listen to the most annoying goddamn music ever. Every place you go on board, it's like you're stuck in a Swiffer commercial playlist. It's fine in some areas, I get if you want to play some 2012 party music in the evenings or whatever, but when you're relaxing in the Sky Lounge, watching the vessel sail down this narrow channel into this gorgeous landscape, I really do hate them for playing blurred lines. The ship's ambient music is the most annoying and generic 2010 to 2015 music you can think of, all being played in the most inappropriate places. We were eating in the Ocean View Cafe, and Gangnam Style came. Gangnam Style? What? I'm sorry, but you cannot call yourself a premium, luxurious cruise experience and then play the top 40 playlist from the early 2000s. On a pretty short playlist, mind you, since we heard songs repeat a few times in just 4 days. I'm sorry, it just drove me insane, and it's annoying that companies often fail to understand the importance of sound in an experience. It's one of your main senses. If you want to present a premium feeling, create an atmosphere. Play film scores, classical, modern chic music. God, anything but blurred lines. But it's not just the activities and the music that degrade the experience. It's also the state of the ship itself. I was pretty surprised to see that Solstice is in pretty rough shape in a lot of areas, particularly outdoors. The outdoor pools had rust spots on the bottom with the wood deck around it coming apart. The hot tubs had mildew building up in the plastic rims, and this large fountain section on the deck just never worked. It was originally a signature focal point on this pool deck, but is now clearly broken and has been for some time, as was the indoor solarium's water feature. Up at the lawn club, chairs have clearly seen better days, and I'm honestly pretty shocked they left this decorative element in this state. Even the awnings for the shade structures have turned to this brown, dirty color. A clear sign of neglect, especially when you look at pictures back in 2008. Again, too, our balcony was very dirty, and the railings around the whole ship appeared as if they haven't been varnished or repaired in years. Definitely a far cry from the other premium brands like Disney. Even the Sky Lounge, for as much as I loved it, had some issues. The glass that surrounded the space, as well as other spaces on board, are double paned with a gap in between both panels. But it looks like some of the seals in those sections have been leaking and allowing water to pool inside the windows. This caused a good number of those panels inside the observation lounge to be fogged up with condensation or sloshing around with mildew-filled water. So in some areas of this observation deck, it's kinda hard to observe. It is pretty surprising that Celebrity doesn't take a higher standard of maintenance and cleanliness for their ships as other lines. Solstice may be 15 years old, but the 25-year-old Disney Magic is in remarkably better condition. It's just a testament where some companies keep their priorities. So let's talk price. Our 4-night voyage for 2 people in a balcony cabin cost us $1,368 Canadian, or just a little over $1,000 USD. So honestly, going in with that price expectation, the whole experience seemed to match the price point, if not exceeded it. For instance, if I were to do nearly the same voyage on the Disney Wonder, it would cost me $3,700 Canadian, so nearly triple the cost. Even if I were going to fly to all these places, from LA to Astoria to Victoria and Vancouver, you're looking at around $1,500 plus with accommodations and food all in. So this was a cool experience for me. I got to see my friends and colleagues in Los Angeles and in Astoria, while also visiting the most beautiful North American city I have ever seen, Victoria. We also got to see it from a unique vantage point, slowly sailing around and into these amazing ports. We got to see a pilot get airlifted off the deck of a cruise ship at night, sailed through a massive pod of dolphins, and watched this enormous ship sail under a bridge at 5 a.m. Those are the kind of moments that really stick with me. So let's give this an actual rated score. I call it Jake's Is It Any Good score, and it's out of 5 categories, each out of 10 for a possible perfect score of 50 out of 50. I'll start with the staterooms. While they're large, they're definitely dated and don't really offer much in the latest and greatest for comfort and tech. They feel like an old chain hotel with crappy soap products and a dirty balcony. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. Food, on the other hand, was really solid. The buffet was more hits than misses, and the main dining room food left a little room for complaints. The only real misses here were the desserts and the quick service options like the burgers, which is unfortunate. It's an 8 out of 10. The ship itself is truly great. Many of the public spaces are well designed with lots of glass to see the ocean and a constant feeling of elevated architecture. But there are some venues less utilized and looking pretty tired, along with a lack of maintenance in some key outdoor venues. It really could and should be a 9, but it's a 7 out of 10. The experience overall, though, is mixed, with a friendly crew and many venues to enjoy no matter what your itinerary is. This voyage in particular was filled with things to see and do outside of what Celebrity had planned. However, this ship fundamentally does not understand all of the aspects that make something luxurious or even premium. The lack of atmosphere, the poor choice of music, and the activities make the experience feel a lot older and less refined than it should, especially as the brand is pivoting their marketing to a younger demographic. I think it warrants a 6 out of 10. Value is really more subjective than anything else here, since this voyage is a rare repositioning cruise and is thus much cheaper. For this sailing, it's a 9 out of 10. It's a really good deal, and if you can find a similar voyage at that price, I think you'll be satisfied. But that isn't the norm. Most voyages are double or even triple what we paid for longer and more routine voyages, and you will be nickel and dimed along the way despite the higher prices. Disregarding that though, the total score for the Celebrity Solstice and more or less her sisters is 34 out of 50. I think this is a really good ship at its core, and I think the score would have been a lot better if the ship was brand new back in 2008. But Celebrity does not treat it that way, and maintenance has slipped, venues have become outdated, and programming is not up to the premium standards they claim. I think this was a great cruise for our itinerary and price. But some sailings are priced well over $5,000, which I don't think is worth it at all. But let me know what you think. Leave a comment below, and if you like these videos, please consider subscribing. My name is Jake, and thank you very much for watching.